Okay,
Yeah,
Aaron,
why don't we go to that after we get done?
he doesn't have, he's going to have to run. So that's why he got on to get that. And usually the first 5 minutes we cover any questions anyway.
Yeah, so everybody take out your iPhone or your Android phone and just put a reoccurring appointment, Trevor and Aaron and everybody else. And I'm speaking to the choir because of everybody who's here already. And just block out an hour and a half every Thursday, Trevor, to be on here regularly, right? So
we're talking about Aaron right now, though, Master Oliver.
no, I know, but I was Aaron was having to run, but we have normally a 90-minute segment here, so I was beating up on Aaron as well on that. But go ahead, Master Smith, while we're letting everybody in.
Aaron, go ahead and ask your question.
So my what I've been looking at is the Planet Fitness CEO has been talking about big box and retail fitness. He expects a massive boom towards vaccine rollouts and just people getting tired of working out at home and the whole COVID vaccine thing. And so what my initial thoughts was to start a postcard or a direct mail campaign along with some Facebook ads and try to do either like pre-selling memberships similar to how gyms do it, or really trying to attack that end of quarter 3, beginning of quarter 4, when they anticipate the vaccine rollouts will hit the rest of us. And speaking with Grandmaster John Worley, he always talked about the Karate Kid movie. When that came out, it changed the industry and they had kids lined up around the block. And he always said that we would never really experience that Karate Kid sort of influx again. And I'm wondering if COVID and I mean, we've seen more interest this year already because people are sick of being at home. I'm wondering if that's a big opportunity for us to really focus on as people get comfortable with the vaccines coming out and they want to get outside or get out of the house again.
Let me address that, Master Smith.
Okay.
Here's two sides of that question. And here's what Kate's going to tell you here in a minute.
Yeah, perfect timing.
Yeah, what Kate's going to tell you here in a minute, and what I can tell you is the boom in martial arts has been the minute you get your thinking straight, pull your head out of your ass, and recognize that there's a ton of people who want to do what we're doing right now, regardless of any of that stuff. I'm not speaking to you specifically, Aaron. I'm just saying, our industry, I am frustrated by the fact that 50% of martial arts schools are probably out of business, and a whole bunch of the others are down 50%. And even some of our members keep using that as an excuse, when the reality is the lead flow is phenomenal. The number of people who want to do what we're doing is phenomenal. And the number of people who are excited and engaged with doing it outdoors, doing it by Zoom, combined with remote learning, doing it social distance in the school if possible. Any and all of those things, there's a huge market. Does that make sense, Aaron? So my argument against what you're saying is that the boom is right now, right? Is there's just a huge number of people who are interested. Will there be a natural uptick in people once their government stops trying to kill all the local small businesses? Sure. But I know here in Colorado, right? I mean, if you look back in March, there was no traffic, everything was dead, nobody's leaving the house, even the damn Red Rocks amphitheater and stuff, they had it blocked off. Now you wouldn't know that there was a pandemic going on, even though there's pretty, draconian local government measures, not as bad as New York City, but, worse than British Columbia, but not as bad as a lot of the United States. But frankly, you wouldn't know because people are just kind of over it, I would say, generally anyway. And the other thing is with like public schools, all of that kind of stuff, is they're desperate for something to do, because even if schools are having in-person in session, which I know a lot of them aren't, here, my son is only for this week, starting again, going to school 2 days a week and 3 days a week. He's pretending to learn at home, and actually they're not doing crap. And my level of disappointment with the educators couldn't be, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 10. But what I would say to you, Aaron, is all of that opportunity is right now, right? Many of the kids' sports aren't happening. Many of the kids' activities aren't happening. Many of the places the kids would go out, like here in Denver, the movie theaters are open. Chase and I like to go to restaurants and movies, but the inventory of movies coming out, there's nothing, particularly interesting coming out. So I can't get him out of the house. He's sitting at home playing video games. So I think the opportunity has been the last 12 months and continues to be. And I also believe there will be an uptick when, the vaccines have finished rolling out and so forth. But I don't think the world looks like the way the question was phrased. Not necessarily that's the way you're thinking about it, but I believe the opportunity is just, right now. And we were just talking to Trevor separately. He did 25 enrollments this month, mostly from Facebook and other online sources. Well, that's a heck of a good month. 25 enrollments in a month is enough to run a better than $1 million a year school. Rachel, how many enrollments did you guys do in January?
16, sir.
What did you gross in January?
115, 545.
Okay.
I was
Trevor,
correct.
did you hear that
Rachel was
number?
incorrect the other day.
Yeah.
And that's US.
115, 545.
Yeah, 115 US. So that's like 170 Canadian there, Trevor.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think your point is really well taken, Master Oliver. Everybody needs to hear that. It's the time to, if those opportunities, if there's an uptick, you'll benefit from the uptick, but you're going to benefit from the uptick because you've been hitting it hard right now too.
And don't take the point of view that people are burnt out on video, on Zoom, because what happens is if kids are doing school, yeah, they're burnt out on doing another school something, but something physical that's exercise, something that's fun, because they'll get off of their school thing and get right back on their laptop and do video games or whatever. So it's not that they don't want to be on a computer or a Zoom screen. It's just they don't want to do school for that many months or that many hours in the day. But they need that PE break, just like in school, they have a PE class for exercise to break the monotony of listening, all that mental stress that they're getting from the learning. So it's really a unique time that this is even more, like you were saying, that a lot of them are coming in because they're bored with not doing anything. There's no physical outlet that they need for their health.
Well, Master Smith, if I could put a little bit of a counterpoint on that, just to answer what I'm hearing some of the questions are, it is true that you'll get people that'll call and go, well, are you offering in-person classes? And then some of you guys have restrictions. So you may have in-person and virtual, or you may only have virtual. And so you may get people that say, well, I want to do it in person. And if you don't do it in person, I'll wait till later. You may get that answer. And there's an answer to that. The answer to that is, well, what are you trying to get out of our martial arts program for your kids? And they can say, in fact, we had somebody call, I was talking to my staff this morning, and the answer was, I think what happened was they had an appointment to come in person, and they called to cancel the appointment to reschedule it because the kid was on quarantine. So the mom calls and says, well, we're going to reschedule the appointment because the kid's on quarantine. The kid was on quarantine, didn't have COVID. The kid was just on quarantine because the rule was if somebody in their class had positive test, the entire class went home on quarantine, right? So the answer that my staff person said was okay, and they rescheduled them. The answer should have been, and she tried to talk them in, to be fair to my staff member, she tried to talk them in, well, we can do that class virtually and we'll do it. And they go, no, that's okay. We'll wait till it's in person. The answer that she should have said was, great, we're going to do the class virtually at the same time. No problem. I'm going to send you the link. And assumptively send them the link. The objection that you'll get sometimes is, oh no, I want to wait. The answer should be, well, you want to get whatever they wanted out of the classes, because we always ask them what they want. So you wanted to get self-discipline for your kid, or you wanted to get self-confidence for your kid, or you wanted to get physical fitness for your kid, or you wanted to get this for your kid, right? Great. Well, this is the way that you do it right now during the coronavirus time. So be focused on the goals that they want for their kid. And then this is the solution. It happens to be virtual right now. And if they don't prefer that, that's okay. But be focused on the goals that they want, because that answer about people not minding in person, some of the parents say that they don't want to do it in person, if that makes sense. Some parents will say, no, I don't want to do it in person. And you're going to get that on the phone. You got to turn it around and say, well, you do want them to get some physical activity now, right? Or you do want them to get self-confidence, if that's what they expressed they wanted, which is part of our phone script. You do want them to get self-discipline if you ask them the reason they wanted to do martial arts, right? Great. Well, this is the way you do it right now because of the world. And so let's do it virtually for your first lesson. And if after that you don't think it's the best thing you've ever done for your kid, then you don't have to do it. So there's an answer to that. Even if some of you are saying, yeah, but you don't understand, everybody says they don't want to do it. That's not really true. What Grandmaster Smith is saying is right, but you need to be able to answer the question and turn it around.
Yeah. But Aaron, is there an expansion on that, or does that all make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes sense. I know we're seeing a lot more interest now than we have in the last several months. I was just trying to think of a way to maybe pre-sell some memberships for those that are waiting for the vaccine to roll out.
One, I wouldn't do that, and two, I don't think that people are waiting for the vaccine to roll out.
Okay.
Right. I mean, here's, and I've been grumpy about it for a couple of weeks now, but my pet peeve is mind reading what we think they're thinking, and then picking and choosing what we hear people saying, and then using that as a negative reference to the situation, as opposed. See, one of the things that I always shut down with my staff is they would say, well, a lot of parents are saying, well, okay, fine. Who said what specifically? Or a parent says, well, a lot of the other parents feel, well, okay, but tell me what you're feeling, right? Is what happens is, your mind works in strange ways. I can have 20 conversations with parents. 19 of the things they say are all positive in one thing or another. Then one of them says, because of this, we're afraid of that. And then that becomes the thing that sticks in your mind, right? Or I talk to 20 people on the phone and 19 of them are fine, or 17 of them are fine, and 2 or 3 people give me an excuse of something or other. And then I think, well, okay, so that's their excuse. Aaron, here's going to be, by the way, what the excuse is going to be when the vaccine is rolled out and when things sort of get back to normal. It is going to be, oh my God, we're competing against soccer and baseball, and we're competing against all these other kids' activities, right? Because that was the excuse a year ago, right?
Sure.
Is a year ago, all the schools were saying, oh, but everybody's so busy with soccer, or they're busy with football. And then when all that stuff got wiped out, and we were essentially the only game in town because we were smart enough to be that way, is then the excuse was, well, people don't want to wait till, well, you can't have it both ways, right? So I'm not saying you, but I mean, it's we're still have, such an open field right now. I mean, some of the stuff is back on speed, but I can tell you as a parent, I'm frustrated that all the stuff my 12-year-old normally would do and the level of education that he was getting a year ago has all gone to hell, right? But I don't blame COVID. I blame the educators have screwed it up, and these other activities have shut down when there was no reason for them to shut down. They could have adapted. So I think we've got to be careful, not to look at things that way. Master Moody, you and I were saying, and Master Moody, we were saying in April. Well, look at it this way. You were worried about competing with soccer before, and now they're all shut down and we're the only game in town, right? So yeah, I think there's going to be an uptick of activity as things roll out more. I also think there's a great deal of irrationality. I posted a chart yesterday. We can talk about it a little bit after we get done with Kate. Is, basically anyone under 40, really doesn't have any issues with this stuff. It's unless they have some other serious issues, and certainly 0 to 17, the kids market, they're just, they don't transmit the disease. They don't give it to adults. I'm overstating the case, but mostly if you're 65 and diabetic, you have a problem. If you're 75 and have 3 comorbidities, you should be living in a plastic bubble right now. But other than that, it's just not that big a deal.
Yeah, the competition is gone. You can't do virtual baseball or football or basketball or any of that virtually.
Yeah.
And Kate's
Although to be fair, in the fall, a lot of the outdoor sports, around here, the lacrosse and the baseball and the football was all fully in gear. So, to be fair, some of them were in the fall, back in gear a little bit. But yeah, they certainly have a lot less in competition than you did before.
Kate's going to tell us how great it's all working right now and why it's so important that you double down. That's why it's so important to keep your stats, so if you should double down. So is that a good? Can we jump to Kate now, Master Oliver?
Absolutely.
Hey,
Okay,
folks.
Kate, take it away.
Oh, and Kate, something you and I talked about the other day, just to preface here a little bit. I think I was talking about this. Well, no, it was our multi-school meeting. Is the different niches and different target audiences, right? I have always said, for 30 years now, my number one favorite audience is Hispanic recent immigrant family, right? A lot of them where parents don't speak English and the kids translate for the parents. And preferably I hired an instructor who's bilingual. The immigrant population generally is always my favorite, especially for the kids market, because, and I'm overgeneralizing, but Hispanic immigrants and Asian immigrants and so forth are willing to spend more money for their kids than, fifth generation American, sadly. And we spent quite a bit of time with the big school operators talking about different market subsets, but that's something you and I had talked about is sometimes people are getting a lot more Hispanic surname families than before, or people who don't speak as clean of English and as clean on English, and they're my favorites. They'll spend more proportionately to their disposable income, et cetera, and have in most cases, again, overgeneralizing, but they've come to the U.S. for better outcomes for their kids and are more willing to be engaged and spend money. I wanted to remember that for us to talk about that a little bit.
Thank you. Yeah, we do have, our targeting is based on each geographic area where we're running Facebook ads. So, it's constantly something that we're working with, but, kind of making sure that everyone is looking at everything with an open mind and,
Well, here's what I want Facebook to allow us to do.
Hey.
Is I want them to allow us to target Hispanic surname households, so that I could do bilingual. Well, no, I mean you could do that in most other media, Jeff. You can do you can be on Lavos, or that was the newspaper here in town. You can be on I forget the Spanish language TV station. When I was running our infomercial, it was on the Spanish language TV station. Of course, a lot of other people were clicking through. But all the studies show is, Hispanic surname households with advertising targeted to them, Asian immigrant households with advertising targeted to them. And I know Facebook's not going to let us do it because of all the stupidity around the political correctness. But I mean, we can do it in a lot of other media.
Yeah. And then from a cost per lead standpoint, everything is looking great. Like the fall was crap you know, we all know that the elections, the holidays, everything going on politically, it was just, you
Yeah,
know, a
fourth
really
quarter.
rough couple of months,
Yeah.
but things have rebounded really well and really strongly in January. And January is always a pretty good month. So I always kind of put a caveat on that. But even now that, what is today, February 4th, we're still seeing actually some of our lowest costs on the front end for lead generation than what we've been seeing even previously. So of our 28, 29 schools or so that we're working with, probably about 80% of them, 90% of them are having costs below $15 for their front end for their leads from Facebook. And in January, you know, we had a couple of schools up near 100 leads for the month, which we hadn't seen those types of numbers in a while, with those costs, you know, being where they were throughout the fall in that time frame. So lots of really good things happening. We have some like refreshes happening all the time on our client accounts. And, you know, we have a bunch of schools that came in at 100 leads, 78, 70, you know, 119, and, you know, a bunch of schools that were in that level. So the front end has been great. So, and it's just a matter of course, you know, tracking your numbers and getting those people in for intros and being in touch with them as quickly as possible. And, you know, that's always the game. So, you know, getting in front of them, getting them as quickly as possible, and then selling them on their intros.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
cost per lead is excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been great. And, you know, for a school like Middleburg, you guys said you had 16 enrollment from last month, and not all of the leads from January would have enrolled in January. There's probably a little overlap from December and whatnot, but that's out of, from what we can see, about 30 something appointments from the
Yeah,
Facebook leads. And so not all of those enrollments would have come from Facebook for sure, but, you know, those are some great percentages.
We had 7 enrollments in January from Facebook leads.
Bingo. Awesome.
We just got off a meeting with Paul Pendergast, and I think from Facebook January advertising, he was guessing 45 enrollments. He did 30 in January, predominantly from Facebook, but he had a lot of carryover into February. So, you know, the 30 was reality in January, but he had a lot, probably another 15 or 20 just from January marketing carrying over to February. Of course, whatever continues to come in.
Yep. And his average cost per lead was $9 each coming in the door. So those are some great ratios coming through for cost per lead, and cost per enrollment all the way through.
Yeah. Kate, I promised Melissa, and her partner Krista is on the meeting here. I see Krista's picture anyway. If we could get a cleaner copy of the breakdown,
Sure, absolutely.
maybe for January rather than I had posted an older one, but get a cleaner copy of that and maybe post it in the Facebook group. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll do that right after this.
And I think there's still a few of the schools that are getting really good lead traffic and really crappy conversion, right? Like Trevor, we just talked, and you've done like what, 30 leads and 25 enrollments or something like that.
34.
Oh, 34 leads and 25 enrollments, which is an outlier as far as the conversion rate. But you know, I think we all know that it takes a little bit of time to transition and get really good at follow up quickly on incoming leads, especially online leads, whether it be, I know Master Moody, biggest concern that Rev Marketing has is they generate a ton of lead traffic and then people complain they're not getting enough enrollments. And the problem is the follow up and how the phone is handled and so forth. And number one concern we have with Facebook and behind the scenes, we're, you know, beating our head against the wall all the time, is for the outbound call to happen quickly, as well as all the automated stuff to happen quickly to get a high conversion rate to appointment. And what I keep seeing is the only place that falls apart is leads come in and shows up in somebody's email and they follow up in 3 hours, rather than they get it in their text message, they call them while they're still on the phone. Everywhere else, once an appointment is made, they're solid. Google leads, Facebook leads are all just as solid as, referrals or just about anything else you would do.
Yeah,
And
the rule is
and a
with,
correction on that, Master Oliver, that was 34 intros and 25.
Right. Right. I was looking at lead to, to appointment ratio, but
Yeah, he didn't
yeah,
have
go ahead,
that.
Master Moody.
He didn't have that number.
Right.
yeah, the rule is that your appointment rates are 90% higher if you respond to the lead within 30 seconds. And I say that to people and they go, oh, well, gee, I call my leads back at 4 o'clock when I come into the school. And that's just completely inadequate. As Master Oliver kind of alluded to a second ago, think about the process. Somebody sees your Facebook ad or they search for you online and they find you. Your job is to really call them back where they're still engaged with that response. They filled the form out and you call them back while they're still engaged with that, with the lead, they just filled the form out and you call them back. They just filled the form out on the website. They're still on your website. That's when you get the massive response compared to even 10 minutes later. 10 minutes later, they've already gone on to looking at cat videos or whatever else they're going to do.
Yeah.
It's not because those are low quality leads, by the way. We keep hearing sometimes that the message, I know on when I'm working with people in rev marketing or Kate's working with people, we get these, complaints. Well, oh, but that was a low quality lead. Well, when did you call them back? Well, right away. What's right away? Well, an hour later. Okay. They were looking at cat videos. They were watching TV. They were going on to another topic. Their attention moved. And it's not because it's just the way the world is now. It's a changed attention direction. We can look at, numerous studies to back that up, which we don't need to go into, but you guys are all the same way. Your attention focuses on other things in a lot quicker manner when it's in 2021 than it was in 1992.
Yeah.
And that's a huge piece of it too, and something that I harp on even with our, our B2B sales effort, that we're doing. It's when we're doing a targeted outreach to anyone through Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads or whatever medium that you're using, utilizing more information is better, telling us, okay, well, why isn't that a good lead? Or why is that a low level lead? Why is it a low quality person? Getting that kind of information can help us tweak targeting a little bit. And it also provides the opportunity, well, is it just the last one that you're thinking about? Or is this really a trend? Is this really all of are a majority of the leads actually low quality? And if they are, maybe we can do something about it. Or is it just the low quality ones are the ones top in your memory? Are they within the audience that you're going for in your area? That kind of information is important to know so that we can maybe make some tweaks to targeting here and there. Maybe they're all from one zip code and we take that zip code out and problem solved. So there's some opportunities there, but not just taking like we talked about earlier, a blanketed look of, oh, well, the quality is not great. Well, why isn't the quality great? And let's dive into it a little bit deeper.
Some
Individual basis.
Some people aren't letting you know. You got to let her know how many appointments, how many intros, how many enrollments you had. And so if you're not on top of those numbers, it's hard for her to tweak or change it because she is an expert at making the ads get you results. But if she doesn't know that they're not getting you results, then she can't tweak them. And it's really the key to really zero in and have those good percentages. So, stay on top of that with her, communicate with her so she can help you help her.
Master Moody, when you say call within 30 seconds, we get Facebook leads, market muscle leads, 8:30 at night, 9 o'clock, sometimes 12 at night. Right. I get texts and all that stuff. I'm all about like calling people whenever.
Yeah, you don't want to call them in.
Well,
let me answer that a couple of ways.
8:30, sure you do. 9 o'clock, sure you do.
Yeah, 8:30.
Yeah. Let me answer that. Yeah, let me answer that a couple ways because I'll give you a more complete answer. Master Sanborn, who runs my Cave Creek school, she'll call you at midnight. You just filled out a form online and you're up and you're filling a form out. If she's up at midnight and she doesn't mind, I don't make her do that. So, right, I don't make my employees stay up 24 hours a day so they can call the leads back.
Or sleep with their cell phone under the pillow. but-
Exactly. I don't make the employees do that. But if she's up doing something and she's working on something or watching TV and she gets see for her, if you think about it this way, she knows and she kind of really gets, well, not kind of, she really gets that if she calls them back immediately, it's a lot less work for her than it is for her to chase the people down the next day. So for her to call them back immediately, so let's think about that process first. Forget the midnight thing. If she calls them back immediately and she makes it a VIP message on her cell phone, and we set up the system, and Red Marketing does this for you too. That if you get a text message, you get a text message immediately when you get the message and all that stuff. So if you immediately get the message, okay, and you know that the lead came in, and you immediately call back, even if you're kind of busy doing something and it's 9 o'clock at night, it's a lot less work for her to do that then than it is for her to chase them down later. So she knows it's in her best interest to do it. Now, she's probably most of the time going to be asleep at midnight, so she's not going to do that. She's going to deal with it when she gets up and gets to work and deals with it the next morning. So we don't normally do that. But if you think about the user, the prospect, if you want to use that term. So the prospect was online doing it. Now, if we wait 5 minutes, we won't call them back or email them. But if we immediately get that lead and we immediately call them back and it's midnight, if she's up, she'll do it. And we've never had anybody in history say, oh, why are you calling me at midnight? What we have instead is, man, you guys are really on top of things.
Yeah.
So,
well, and the automated systems should be firing out them a text message,
Yep.
an email, and a voicemail anyway, right? And we're
Yes.
not going to not do that at 2 a.m. because they opted in at 2 a.m.
we'll send the text though, just to be clear on the voicemail. The voicemails can be flaky, the actual voicemail systems. So we do the ringless voicemail if it's off business hours. So they get the voicemail in their inbox, because you can't guarantee you get them there because the way the systems work that quickly. So if it's like 5 minutes later and it's midnight, we really don't want them to, we don't want them to bitch.
Fair point. They're not getting a
Sal,
robo.
yeah, but if somebody's 9 or 10 at 9 o'clock, call them back. 9 o'clock, they should be calling them back. That's work time. That's work hours. So 9 o'clock, I have no sympathy if the staff doesn't call them back at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be calling back at 9 o'clock. But midnight, yeah, I hope my staff is sleeping. If they're not,
It is true. You're going to get some people who opt in at 3 a.m., but I mean, that's not most of them.
You know where the biggest problem, Master Oliver, and you said this before because you've done studies on this, and so have I. If you look at phone research, most calls are from 9 a.m. to noon. And where we see the biggest problem is that school owners only answer the phone from 3 or 4. Bob can tell you this because he's had to call some of you guys.
They don't answer the phone, period. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Well, I'm being nice, but the phone gets answered from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. and sometimes not even in the middle of that time. So the phone needs to really be covered with a live person. Now, by the way, this is still an online marketing thing. It's still related to what Kate's doing. So if the lead gets generated, the phone number is going to be on the landing page somewhere. We'd like them to fill out the form and call you. That would be the perfect world. They fill out the form and call you. That's what you want. But if you don't answer the damn phone, that's gold. That's the gold. And so none of these systems replace being open and ready to receive the phone call and answering it live. Secondarily, calling them back immediately. And that increases your numbers exponentially. The third level is all the automation. So we get focused on all this automation and making things all technologically sound, but it's really pretty old school. Answer the damn phone or call them back when you lead as fast as humanly possible. The next part is the automation. Sorry, Master Oliver. I get kind of evangelistic about that particular point.
Kate did post that
as
for
we
you.
also. Well, yeah, I saw that. So that was Melissa had asked, but it's useful for everybody to go through that.
So Kate, Melissa, and Krista, it is posted for you.
Yeah. So Kate, what are some other takeaways here for the month so far?
There's not a ton. I mean, we've been closely monitoring the iOS updates and everything that, has affected the Apple versus Facebook battle that's ongoing. So we're of course monitoring everything with that. And we're working with our Facebook reps all the time on making sure that we're ahead of the game and doing everything that we can to keep, targeting correct and making sure that we're getting all the information that we want and, just keeping a close eye on it. So it's not done yet. I do think it'll go away a little bit here coming up, but it hasn't had a huge effect. Obviously, with the cost that we've been seeing and the lead volume that we've been seeing, it has not been affecting our campaigns as of yet that we can tell. So, but we are keeping a close eye on it in case anyone wanted to know or ask. We're not just,
Is everybody giving you good reports back? I mean, are they
No,
actually?
hardly anybody is. Kate, explain to everybody what was going on with Apple as far as the tracking in the iPhones.
Yeah, basically Apple is trying to or has masked their data, where if you have your phone and you're doing something online, it's not able to track you anymore. Those online sites aren't able to track you as much as they used to. Personally, there's going to be a way around it because there's so much advertising dollars across the spectrum on every single digital platform out there that there's no way that this is going to go away. To be totally honest, that's just my opinion. So don't take that anywhere yet. But, it's really just they're limiting the amount of data being passed from your search activity to the to the sites that you're on. And that's, it affects the conversions that are happening on Facebook. Facebook tracks by conversions and people coming through. So someone filling out the opt-in form for a martial arts class and, they're tracking that and then sending that data back to Facebook so that we can, either track people that are target people that are similar to that type of person later on, or, get that data as a conversion. So it's there, but it honestly hasn't had much effect. And this is true for all of the campaigns that we're running, not just the martial arts schools. We've been keeping a close eye on it for everything. It hasn't had a huge effect yet. Of course, we're monitoring it all the time.
Yeah. My prediction has always been it's not going to be Apple. It's going to be the politicians that kill Facebook on one side or another with all the craziness.
Yeah.
But
Mr. Oliver, if I could chime in real quick. So
Yeah.
Kate, just because it's been asked a couple of people, just to clarify, Kate's with Elite Digital. And maybe Kate, if you could, for anybody who's not up to speed, we could post your contact in the Facebook group again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm quick on that. Elite Digital is also referred to as linked selling.
Yeah.
3+ years ago, Elite Digital Group was purchased by Link Selling. And so everything is exactly the same. We've just finally started updating our branding and our email addresses and stuff like that from a logistical standpoint. So when you do see something coming across as Link Selling, it is us. It's the same team. And I have my exact same team members. It's all of our same management that we've
Same
had for
window
the last
behind you.
bunch of years. Yeah. Yeah.
You guys are actively managing Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You have a department, I guess the way to say it, that'll do physical contacts and so forth in LinkedIn, and also will do inbound and outbound calls, right?
Yep.
And for some people, that's probably worthwhile. Is to have that. We haven't yet come across much that's working well for martial arts with LinkedIn.
Correct.
The only suggestion that I had, given the structure of LinkedIn, is, okay, check home used to talk about the Dream 100 list. And if I was, with my schools for years, we had everything from pro football players to we had, the local newscasters, the on-air personalities, to you know, the CFO and the marketing director of the Nuggets and so forth. And to some extent, there is a value in a martial arts school for that Dream 100 list. I think it would be worth experimenting with, you know, let's take everybody who's in the media business and let's go after them. Let's go after, you know, high profile, anybody who's a local celebrity, et cetera, and try to generate that. We did it mostly, you know, by accident, to tell you the truth, and then it was through intentional referral and networking. But I think there's a potential to experiment with that.
Yeah, definitely. One, you know, in any case, the more places you are, the more opportunity people will have to see you, and the more opportunities you'll have to get people to actually convert.
Yeah.
So that being said, you know, LinkedIn is definitely a strong platform for getting in front of some of the business leaders or community leaders within an area. It's expensive, but it's not going to be coming in at $9 a lead. But you know, the quality could definitely be there for a small level, you know, a short test of how it could work. So I'm definitely willing to try it, but having that expectation that, you know, the costs are not going to be $10 a piece. We normally find LinkedIn for any campaign is sometimes 2 and 3 and 4 times more expensive than what we generate on Facebook. For the same type of offer, campaign, or target. So totally open to trying it. And especially with some of those like smaller level lists that we can, you know, work towards and have that specific targeting, you know, it's definitely an option. And like you've said, the more places people are, the more opportunities people will have to see you.
Well, in the value I see potentially, again, we have to experiment with it, would be, you know, let's target all the orthodontists in the area.
Yep.
In other words, different people of job titles and business categories that have our target audience.
Exactly.
And an awful lot. I mean, we got awful lot of publicity because I ended up with the, you know, the network affiliate newscaster and the network affiliate anchor, and then they just like to show off their kids and do other stuff for us as they went along. Or people who are local celebrities. You know, we had, you know, one of the best known local DJ, you know, was a student and, or had their kids. So I
Come
think
do karate with Tom Brady's sons. It's a nice play.
yeah. Well, we had, you know, 3 marquee Broncos players at one time. One who was a student and 2 whose kids were students. So, you know, a lot of that is useful stuff, both for generating publicity or having somebody whose business, you know, works with the same clientele we do that we can expand.
Yeah.
And I would willingly pay, you know, 5 times in order to get, you know, 5 orthodontists and, you know, 4 school principals and you know, 2 or 3 pro football players or people who were on the executive staff on the local team or something like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I could never get Charles Barkley to give us a testimonial. He was too busy. His daughter was with us till almost.
Oh. Yeah.
Nice.
I know there's been some real high profile. You know, George Chung used to actually be on the coaching staff of the San Francisco 49ers. So he had Andre Tippett's the only name I remember, but he had a lot of the real high profile guys there too. But Kate, anything to add for everybody before we shift on to our other topics?
No, I think I'm good. I put my contact info and that chart in the Facebook group, so feel free to reach out if anyone has any questions on anything further.
Okay, good. And I think what we're going to probably spend the balance of our time doing is going from lead to intro to enrollment and doing a really good job at those conversions in the current environment. Because obviously the market is extremely fertile right now.
Sure.
Yes. Okay. Melissa, are you actually there, or is that just a picture of Melissa? Krista, are you there?
I am. I'm pretty sick today, so I wasn't putting on the video. It's not a pretty picture.
Yeah, it's okay.
Not a problem.
Am I correct that you guys were having, because you got a lot of lead flow, you're having some problems converting to enrollments?
Well, we haven't had could you hold on just a second, please?
Okay. We'll pick up from there.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry about that. I just had we just have too many people on here. Anyway, point is, we've slowly been improving on our numbers, and I can pull our stats up real quick. I think that Krista has a better handle on it as of right now, this last week or so, just because I've been super sick, like I said.
Yeah.
So I'm really not as up to date as I usually am. But we have improved our numbers. Krista, would you like to take that question? Because I think it's a really good chance. Thanks for taking the time with it. I
You bet.
appreciate that, Master
You bet.
Alva.
Well, it's the same issue that everybody has, is making sure you get a high conversion rate to enrollment.
Right, right.
Yeah, what the trouble that we're having is, so because we are still on Zoom, we do have a number of people who do want in person, and so they're like, well, we'll wait until you can come back in person before we sign up. And the other piece that we're having trouble with is, they love the classes. They rave about us. We had a teacher tell us that she wishes that her teacher would teach that the other teachers would teach like us. I mean, we hear that consistently over and over and over again. And then we get to the enrollment and they're like, well, then they don't convert into a member. So our conversion is not very good. And we're also not getting the enrollment conferences as well. So, it's when we're in person, you grab them, you throw them in a room and you sign them up. But we signed up, I think, one person in January, one or two. It was terrible, our conversion rate. So I feel frustrated and I feel a little lost, and I'm not really sure how to fix it exactly.
Yeah, well, that's what we're here for. So, I know that, according to Kate's numbers, she had 82 Facebook leads in January. How much other traffic did you have?
Very little. We had some friend referrals, but primarily we are getting all of our leads through Facebook.
Okay. Well, and by the way, it's great that Facebook's working so well in Mercer Island, and especially in a geographically constrained area to some extent. I mean, surrounded on all sides by water. AKA island, but we do always want to stay with the Parthenon, right? We always want to be in the let's get 20 different things going on every month, and clearly in Seattle and a number of places, big live events and so forth. Although I've been seeing a lot of places where everything else is shut down, they still have farmers markets and stuff going on. Or you have Chaz, I guess, street fair going on. But we want to always maintain 20 different things coming in the driving traffic, even though in this case, Facebook's working, well enough for you to get plenty of enrollments from that, right? It's always a big mistake because there could be some technical change next month that dried up that traffic, or there could be, something else. Of the leads that come in, what percentage of them are you moving to appointment?
I can look that up.
And for everybody else on the call, make sure you know your numbers too. If you're going to improve your enrollments, it starts with improving your leads. So if you don't have a good grasp on that and where they're coming from, it's hard to target your marketing. And that's why you need that Parthenon, so you can see which ones of them are actually getting you some leads. And then your stats after that is going to help you fine tune what you need to convert that to an enrollment.
I have our percentages right
Go ahead,
here,
Melissa.
Krista, if you want me to do them. We tracked for January 69 incoming total leads. I think that's just, there's a little bit of when I count them from day 1 to day 31. But the point is we tracked 69 incoming leads. We made 49 appointments, which is 71% of those made an appointment.
That's good.
From first appointment to showing for their first intro was 57%. So we made 28 showed for their intro for 57%. The enrollment, then from that into enrollment conferences was 43%. So that's an area I think we could make some nice improvement in. And I think we've implemented some stuff this month with doing more character stuff. And anyway, then from the enrollment conference to enrolled was 50%. Now included in those are some, I think 3 or so, 4 of those leads that enrolled were people we got from other sources, primarily people we've already trained before, a year ago, left, came back. So those are our numbers as
And
of January.
just to clarify that, Melissa, you had 28 intros, and when you said enrollment conferences, does that mean that they came back for a second, or did you do the conference right after the first?
No, they came back for, so they came in, they did their orientation, they went to class, a group class, at least one. By the time, and that's what Krista was alluding to, is we are having a little trouble getting them, and we've addressed this in this room before about how to get people to show up for that follow-up appointment. And I think we've implemented some changes there. I think Krista or Graham could speak to that better, but I think we're improving on that. But it's certainly a weakness. It's really tough for us because I really like in person, of course. You walk up to the dad, you go, hey, you want John to continue? They say, yeah, let's go talk, and we sign them up. We haven't had to do appointments and so much work to get it because it's online.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
28, you had 14 that actually you did a conference on? Is that number?
12 actual enrollment conferences.
Okay.
Okay. And then how many enrollments?
6 enrollments, 3 of those were Facebook, 3 of those were other people, our own lead, or you know what I'm saying? Other
Right.
lead source.
Yeah, right. Okay, so at each step of the way, I mean, generally, and you might see where the discrepancy is between, what they're tracking through lead pages of 83 and 69. Well, of course, you had some others there too, but there is a discrepancy. So it seems like, maybe 15 or 16 got lost in the shuffle. But generally, 71% to appointment is a pretty good ratio.
Yeah.
Right. I wouldn't be terribly disappointed about that number. Now, we see people get 85, 90%, but 71 isn't abysmal. The show rate's a little low. Are you using Schedule Once or something comparable to confirm by text and email and all that stuff?
Yeah, I think they're getting, and correct me if I'm wrong, Krista, what we have going now is they get Schedule Once. They also get a personal text, email, and phone call. And we try to do that as close as possible to their interest being shown. They're coming to the meeting and they get all that confirmation is what I'm saying.
Okay, I guess what I'm asking is to confirm the first intro and the second intro. Are they getting all of that to confirm the appointment to get a show?
Yes.
Okay. Are you getting anything into the mail to them?
I don't think so. No, that's actually not something we're doing well with. We are not doing well with that at all.
Okay. Well, and you're not the only one. It's certainly worth us circling back and exploring. One of the things, Dan Kennedy and crowd calls it shock and awe box, but there's a lot of ways to think about it. There's anything from, a handwritten postcard with just a confirmation like you might get for a dental appointment to, a really robust, package that they get, all of which helps it helps from appointment, from lead to appointment. It also helps from appointment to show. But to circle back to that, then you have, obviously, a big part of the problem is getting the enrollment conference. Krista, where do you feel like how's that falling apart? Where's the gap there?
I think that they're responding to that. They're feeling like it's they're getting pulled into a sales conference. So what we've been trying to do more often is being like, oh, Joey's really liking this. Great. Let's talk about continuing, being more casual about it. And we're finding a little more success with them but then we have to schedule a Zoom meeting with them. So it's that's what Melissa was saying. We used to just be able to grab them by the collar and say,
Okay.
hey.
Well, that's okay. We've got the solution for that.
Okay.
Are you doing the first class privately on Zoom, or is it group?
Privately.
Okay. So at that first class, what you want to do is schedule the next 2 classes.
Okay.
So you schedule them to come into a beginner class, and then you schedule them for a follow-up private.
Okay.
Okay. And you just say, as part of the introductory process, to give Joey and you a really good feel for the program, what we're going to do is, obviously, we're going to do our class today. And then what we want to do is give you guys a chance to experience one of the regular beginners classes. And then we're going to follow up and do a private class, just so I can answer any questions you have, work with Joey a little bit more, make sure there wasn't anything that he was confused about. Between now and then, I'm going to send you over a bunch of information, so you can send them a link to a web page, send them, YouTube meeting, appointment, YouTube videos and stuff, or you can mail them a big package in the mail. But between now and when we do our third lesson, talk about Joey's level of interest, desire to continue, look at the class schedule. Obviously, for right now, we're on Zoom, and then we'll be outdoors, and we'll be, social distance indoors, and all this is going to probably evolve pretty quickly, I would guess, right? So we're going to be having all of that. Talk as a family, and what we really like to have, and what we require, is that both parents be involved in watching. You don't have to participate, but watching, Joey's next class, and we'd encourage you to participate and be involved in that private class as well. Again, if you want to participate, great. And if not, we want everybody to be there so you get a real sense of what's going on.
The other verbiage that I think you should add in there, Krista, that really helps on the show rate is that private class is an evaluation to let you know how Tommy's doing. And then we want to find out how he liked it. And see, when you say you want to do an evaluation, let him know how well he did, then the parents want to hear, anytime you're talking good about their kid, they want to hear, right? So give them that evaluation, but let them know that, you want to hear how they liked it too. And so I always start off with that, once they're there, then you go, well, how did you like it? And then you go to his evaluation, which Master Oliver has his list of questions that you're kind of asking them. And there's a little chart where you're saying how he did on his balance, his coordination, his reflexes, etc. There's a whole list of them there. And you kind of tell them that. And then you go through are you going to be here for the next year? And you just kind of do these answers to the questions before you give them the conference of actually signing them up. You follow me?
Right. But a big piece of it, just to anchor it in, was making sure at either on the phone or at that first lesson that you schedule them for the group lesson and the follow-up private. And again, I'm not saying we're going to, what we're going to do is schedule you for a group lesson, then we're going to, schedule you for a conference to go over the tuition, right? I'm saying we're going to schedule 2 classes. I want you to experience a beginner group class and then another beginner private. And what we're going to do is do a little evaluation on how Joey did in the group class and how he did today and on the next class. And between now and then, go through all this information I'm going to give you. And again, we'll give them all the normal, testimonials and all the packet about the school and so forth, and you can mail it to them. You can send them a link. Heck, a lot of people were getting in the car and delivering a package to the front door, with their mask on, saying, "Here's the information about the school," right?
Some of them have put a little video together to show the little highlights of the school and what they're learning and the testimonials. And then you send that to them after that first lesson so they can see and hear about other families that, got their kids and they got a little picture of the school and what it looks like inside. And you're kind of walking them through your procedures. It's a kind of intro video that it kind of sells your program for you.
Yeah.
Well, and then all those appointments are on schedule once, and they're emailed and called and texted, and you confirm and remind them. And when they come in for the next class, you're reminding them. When they leave, you remind them of those appointments, so they make sure they show, and all that stuff is done. The principal is really important, that they know what's coming next, so nobody's going to be surprised when you talk to them next. I think the comment was they feel like they're getting sold. Well, nobody's going to feel like they're getting sold if they're told ahead of time that they're going to have another meeting with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can, all these people that you have, quite a few that didn't make an appointment, you can send them a video or a link or information, because you can still go after them to get an appointment. And then all those that made an appointment didn't show, you're going to be sending them stuff, because we can still get people from that group. So don't give up on those. The ones who made an appointment are even warmer leads than the ones who made the lead in the first place that we're going to try to make an appointment. Every time they take a step, they're a little warmer, so it's a little easier to get an actual enrollment from them.
Yeah, and now, Krista, you're perceiving that the gap between 12 people coming in for a conference and 6 enrolling is because they don't want to enroll virtually?
It's not that. It's just they love it, and we've gotten a few price objections. We did raise our prices since COVID, which we needed to do because we hadn't done it in 15 years. And I'm not ashamed of our prices at all. I think that we're at a good rate.
I think we're
And
low.
by the way, you have the highest income demographic of anybody on the meeting here.
Exactly. I think it's a numbers game mostly, that we need to have more enrollment conferences so that we can have more people say yes, really. I mean, they go away raving. We're not going to join, but we love you. That's what we're getting consistently across the board. You guys are amazing. You're wonderful. We're not going to join. Or we get people who say yes, and then I have to get my husband's credit card, and then we never hear from them again. So it's kind of a little bizarre. It's a little bewildering. That
You said two things there that are very important. One was they said they liked it, but they didn't want to do it. Then you've got to then make sure that you find out what the real objection is. You can't overcome an objection if you don't know what it is. And if they say, but we're not going to do it, and then you find out what it is, and then you practice overcoming those objections. And we know there's only 2 or 3 major, every time there's some obscure objection, but 90% of the time it's 2 or 3 different objections, and you got to practice overcoming price objection, overcoming commitment objection, overcoming the COVID objection.
Well, and my guess is they're not prepped adequately for the enrollment when you get there.
Exactly.
So you have to prep them early on to see the value and understand the pieces, right? So, and again, without going through it completely, I'd recommend you look at that milehighkarate.com/second lesson. And there's a very poorly shot video of me going through the pre-frame for the enrollment conference. And there's all the different pieces of information that we put together for Mile High Karate to give them. But I got to go get my husband's credit card. That assumes the husband wasn't on the meeting, right? Now, not to pick on one thing that you said, but if I have a conference with both parents, then I don't get that. So I want to make sure I have conferences only with both parents. right?
Doing that.
How do you do that? Because we have tried to do that, and what ends up happening is that they just don't show up for the enrollment, because it's just we fight them all the time. Husband works late, wife is the only one who's around, or vice versa. And I'm wondering, do you have a trick up your sleeve to kind of force them to?
Well, remember, you're going to have a better show rate on that second intro by scheduling the second and the third class. You know, that is very critical. And that first to second class, one of the things, and again, a lot of this stuff works even better when they can come in the school, but even if they don't, you know,
Yeah,
one of the things
It's easier to get both parents by Zoom.
Much easier. You know, we've had no problem with most parents in the evening to be able to have both parents there, but there's a few exceptions. But just by scheduling those 3 classes out, after that first class, you schedule their second and their third, and you tell them why you're scheduling the third, you're going to have a much better appointment to intro and a better intro to enrollment. I mean, you're losing better than 50% of
Okay.
your intro.
Master Smith, let's answer her question. Yes, we have a trick up our sleeve for getting both parents to be there. Okay.
Yeah, ask.
Well, number one, it's required. You know, so what I see, you know, more often than not to overgeneralize, but you know, mom shows up with the kid for the first lesson and dad's not there, right? And it can be the opposite way as well. But more often than not, the problem is first class, you only have one of the parents involved. Doesn't matter whether it's in the school or, you know, it's at the by Zoom. And oftentimes in talking to, again, it could be mom or dad, but let's say it's mom. The excuse is dad works late or he's traveling or there's some excuse why, you know, they can't both be there, right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, at the first class, I'm going to say, now, what we require is both parents to be involved with the group class and with the follow-up private class. And I want to schedule a time that'll work both for you and for Joey's dad. And I say Joey's dad because a lot of times her husband isn't Joey's dad, right? So I've got that deal, right? So I want to make sure that you and Joey's dad or you and Joey's mom, if we can find a time when you can both be available. And of course, you know, doing it by Zoom, even if he's working late, you know, dad could be on by video from his office if he wanted to be. But I want to schedule a time when both of you can make it to the class. And then I'm going through my little sheet. It's at mylikarate.com/second lesson, and there's an editable version that Bob can help you find. I don't know where it is, but it's in the Facebook group and it's on the Quick Start meeting. But I'm going through my little sheet, right? And then I'm looking at the time saying, is tomorrow night or is Wednesday a better time for Joey and for you and dad to show up? And a lot of times what she will say is, oh yeah, Tuesday's a good time for his dad to be there with him. Now, what did she just say? She just said, Tuesday's a good time for him, but not for me. And I just ignored or didn't hear or understand anything you just told me. Right? Now, my response can't be, you idiot, I just said, right? But my response is, oh, is that a good time for you as well to be there for the class? Oh, no, I have to work late. Oh, okay. How about the next day? Is that a time when you could both make it? Well, yeah, that'll work for our schedule, you see? So I don't let them get away with saying back to me that they ignored me, didn't hear me, or have a good excuse. So far, so good, right?
Yeah, this is one of the questions I have is, how do you respond to, oh, no, it's okay, I make decisions for the kids, and I'm the decision maker, you don't need to have both of us in the room. They'll literally say that to us.
Yeah.
Of course they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, but
Pardon me?
no, I mean, everybody gets that. Yeah. No, I understand, Mrs. Jones, but we do require both parents. What we have found, I mean, this is a long-term educational process. We want to make sure that everybody's familiar with the process, how everything works, and is fully engaged. That's the only way we have the dramatic impact on the kids that we talk about is if both parents are actively involved and engaged in the process. Well, can't I just make the decision? No.
I like that.
Yeah. We
And one
require
of the
both
things
parents.
I want
Oliver,
to
I
try
would-
to run by you is that, like, one of the things I was wondering if we should just say straight up, yeah, we're going to talk about programs. We're going to talk about that at some point, and we want both of you in on that. This is not about a hard sell. This is about us making a decision for your kid that's best for them, or something along those lines.
Well,
Should I
here's
just name the elephant? Don't be so afraid. We're not going to, cut your hair and join a cult.
I like my answer better.
Okay.
And the reason I like my answer better is it's true. What
Okay.
we know, if, let's take worst case scenario, like in a rich area like yours, I'm going to send the au pair down and I want the au pair to get, the price sheet, and then we'll send her back with a credit card.
You understand our people.
Yeah. No. My school that was in Highlands Ranch, it was right down the street from Cherry Hills Country Club, where there's a big PGA tour goes on. And we had you remember the movie Pretty Woman? Marvin Davis, who owned that hotel and owned Paramount Pictures, his grandkids were students of ours, and literally one of my black belts was their bodyguard. So you'd have this big burly former cop bringing these two scrawny little kids in their stretch Mercedes. We require both parents to be involved. And the reason we require both parents to be involved is we get dramatic positive results for the kids. Improved discipline focus, better grades, immunity to negative peer pressure, all of the things that you've already been talking to me that you want. But we only get that if you and his dad are familiar with, know what's going on, have all your questions answered, and can reinforce all the lessons that we're doing at home.
Master Oliver, I would say
That's
it this way. Not only do you say that it's required, but it actually should
Is
be
required.
You see, this is where everybody's screwing this up. We say it's required, and you keep asking us what script to use and what trick to play on them and what thing to do. The way that it would work is if you actually do require it, then you'll start saying the right things.
And by the way, my kids, my daughter's now, going to school down the street from you, Melissa. But my daughter was in two different private schools, the two most expensive probably in town for, first graders or elementary school kids. And then my son too. And every time we looked at one of the schools, guess what they said? We're going to schedule a time for an orientation for you to see the facility, answer all the questions you have, walk through the academic process. We require both parents to attend in order to consider admission for the child. And by the way, in both cases, they said they had a waiting list, and then they approved us. They actually called us on the way out of the building to say they were admitted. So there probably wasn't actually a waiting list. But they both said the same thing, same script. We won't consider admitting a child unless we have both parents actively involved in the process. And then, like Master Moody said, you actually hold to that, right? So, the child shows up to the group class, and admittedly, it's a little bit more of a challenge on video to just know who's there, right? Because I can have the child in frame and the parents aren't in frame and all that stuff. But what I would do is I would pull them into a breakout room and greet them and make sure you have both parents there. And if you don't, I'd say, oh, Mrs. Jones, I'm sorry that, Bill couldn't make it today. I wanted to make sure we scheduled a time when he and you were going to be able to be there, so you're familiar with what's going on with the program. And I have I'll have a lot of them say, oh, he's just running late, he'll be here. Oh, okay, good. Or, no, he got tied up at work. Now, Chris, the other trick up the sleeve is on the confirmation calls, you make sure that they are in fact coming. So I'll call, hi, this is Stephen Oliver at Mile High Karate. I was calling to confirm Billy's class today. I sent you the link. I want to make sure you got that, and it's going to be at 6:15. I wanted to make sure it's still good for you to attend. Oh yeah, that's going to be great. And have you guys talked to Billy a little bit since the last class and gone over the information I gave you? How's he liking it so far? Oh, he loved it. And if you remember, we talked about him memorize. I'm doing this a little faster than normal, but we talked about him memorizing Student Creed and working through that. Have you guys worked on that as a family? Yeah, he's almost got it down. Fantastic. And Ms. Jones, I know you were at class last time. I wanted to make sure that his dad was going to be able to be here with us as well. Is that going to work for him? Oh yeah, he'll be there, and that's going to be good for you as well. Oh yeah, we'll both be there. Fantastic, right? Or she does weasel words of, oh yeah, he's going to be there with him. Great. Is that going to work for you as well? No, it's not. I got called into work. Okay. Well, we have the third time scheduled on tomorrow at 7. Wanted to make sure that's good for both of your schedules. See, I wouldn't necessarily schedule another group class in that situation. I might, but I wanted to make sure that's good for both of you because we wanted to make sure all your questions got answered and that we answered all of Billy's questions and made sure we're all on the same page. But you see, I'm going to on the confirmation call, I'm going to make sure. On the pre-frame, on the pre-schedule, I'm going to make sure. My language is it's required, not we like. I don't ever say we prefer to have, we like to have, it's better to have. I say we require both parents to be involved, right? Now, will there occasionally be an example, right, that they can't? I mean, I've had enrollment conferences where dad was deployed in Afghanistan and was a colonel at, some base over there. Well, okay, I can deal with that. But I'll tell you what's more typical, Melissa. Mom says, I make all the decisions. He doesn't have anything to do with it. I can take care of it. She's always lying. Right?
Yeah.
Because when I get...
That's her objection every time. Let me go talk to my husband and see.
Yeah. Well, one of two things
She
happens.
knows she wants they know they want that. They
Yeah.
know that that's what they're going to be
They
asked.
may,
they're
they
gonna be
may or
asked
may
to
not. They may or may not, but they
Not
don't know what
necessarily,
they're
yeah.
doing at that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, a lot of times they think, oh, this is the same as the ballet school. I'm going to pay $100 and Bill doesn't care. And it's, I'm going to drag him back and forth anyway. They don't know that you're going to sit down and talk about an agreement for $3,000 and a 12-month commitment and that you're pre-framing for black belt. And, in your category of income level, he may not care about that either, right? I mean, if it was Jada's mom and she's just spent $3,000, I wouldn't have cared. But more often what's going to happen is that either she gives you the excuse she has to go talk to him, or she gets home with this agreement you just sent or tells him about it when he shows up, and then he blows up. Okay? I've had 2 over the years that I made the mistake of enrolling her without him. One of them wasn't when I didn't do it. One of them was actually, she came in, told me the dad was dead and that nobody else was involved, and then it turned out she was engaged and her fiance was pissed off. Guy called the school and threatened to kick my ass, and I laughed and said, you know this is a martial arts school, right? We might want to go a different direction. But yeah, they'll always lie to you because they think either you're right, they're devious, you think like Jeff Smith does, or it's
I'm sorry, that was funny.
yeah, or it's like, she just thinks it's like the ballet school, and I wrote him a check for $75 and he doesn't care. I don't need, but now you're not going to do this, but some of the guys I've heard them occasionally say, no, we require your husband to be here. Oh, guys, that, you never say that. It's funny that, the dads aren't going to mind if you say we require your wife to be here. The wives are going to be pissed off if you say we require your husband to be here, right? I always say we require both parents and anyone involved in transportation, finances, or that has significant impact on Joey's life on a day-by-day basis. What do you mean? Well, if they're divorced, I want the stepmom and the stepdad, or mom's girlfriend and dad's new fiance, whatever it might be. I don't care. I want them all to be there. I've had it where they had a restraining order, and I had one in one room and one in the other room, and I had to go back and forth because they couldn't talk civilly to each other. I don't care. I want everybody who's involved. And I've had it where we had grandma who's in Indiana had to be plugged in because she's going to write the check. Okay, great, right? But I have no interest in the babysitter, the au pair, mom without dad, dad without mom, or grandmother brought them in because both parents are high-powered attorneys off doing depositions, and have had all of those scenarios.
And even if dad's not at home, he's probably has internet access wherever he is and
Oh,
can
yeah.
hop on and spend a few minutes and be part of it, just like we do on our Zoom meetings.
Could
Well, shit, in
you-
almost all cases, they're going to work for some big gas tech company in your case. Yeah.
Could you, so let's say we've set up a point, we've made that clear, we've doing a better job on our education part of it. And, we get out some hard copy stuff, so they've got that in their hand. I think that's extra. I think that will really improve our percentages. But then you got someone shows up, it's just, it's just the dad, not the mom, not the dog. Could you run like, I just
don't
showed
require
up,
the
I didn't
dog.
bring dad. How do you redirect that?
Well, they show up, and I'm gonna say, is dad gonna make it down? No, he got called out of town. He had to work late, whatever the excuse is. Oh, okay, great. So now this is before the class. I'm gonna say, great, no problem. Let's go ahead and schedule a follow-up time for Joey to do another class. Now it depends upon whether it's the if it was the group class, I think I'll schedule another group class. If it was he's done the group class and it's where I'm going to do the enrollment, I'll just say, great, let me work with Billy today and answer any questions Billy has, and then we'll schedule a follow-up time when we can do another private class with Billy and have dad involved and let him see how he's doing and answer any questions that you and he have.
Okay, thank
Right.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But always do that at the beginning, right? You
So
don't
at the
do it.
beginning of the meeting, or rather the class.
Yeah. On the way in the door, and if it's on Zoom, on the way in.
Okay.
And then they're going to take you really seriously.
Yeah.
Like if you go, oh, where's Johnny's mom? Oh, well, blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, gee, then we're going to blah, 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 blah. And then, oh, no, I can handle it. Well, no, and then you do what Master Oliver said. But then they're going to take you really seriously. Like there's no screwing around. You don't have both people. Okay, we can't do everything. Well, yeah, but we can't. No, we can. Because we require both parents.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but we can. No, we can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we can. No, we can't.
Yeah.
I
Can't, no,
to read
can't.
that.
Yeah.
No,
But
we can't.
Yeah,
also,
People get stuck.
also, and you mentioned the delivery. If it were me, I would be, after the first lesson, sending somebody to deliver white, they're not, maybe they haven't earned the white belt yet, but sending somebody to deliver a uniform and a packet of information, and I would be dripping on them little video clips and other stuff. But I would, and again, fine, you had 49 appointments. That's worth, worst case, it's going to be, 3 miles, right? It's worth sending somebody by and dropping all that information by and meeting them, right? And your close rates will zip way the hell up.
Okay.
What we found going all the way back to March and April is we found in some cases people's close rates, once they got used to it, were better than they were when they were physically open.
Wow.
And almost always what happened is they were horrible, then they were mediocre, and then they got pretty good, and then they got it dialed in and they got to be really good. Right? But
Yeah.
there was that adjustment period. And mostly by doing it by Zoom, you want to change essentially nothing other than delivering stuff in digital or getting in the car and showing up at their door. But otherwise, you really don't want to change anything from what you're doing.
Master Oliver,
Yes.
so like in that scenario where the other parent doesn't show up and mom goes, well, just tell me how much it is. So how do you handle not going over the program with them without seeming like you're trying to hide something or
You want to
or
go over
hide
the
prices.
evaluation. It's the evaluation. You need them both there to go over the evaluation to see if you're going to accept him as a student. So you can't go over prices until you go over the evaluation. Because you got to ask some questions to see if, if not only do you qualify them, they've got to qualify you. They want to make sure that they like you. It's a good program, a good fit. So you have to ask, that's that little list of questions that that Master Oliver put together for everybody. Because when you ask them before you give them the numbers, you might get a different answer than if you ask them those questions after you give them the number, because that becomes their excuse, which you've kind of closed those doors ahead of time.
Yeah, but to answer the question, right, is just like on an info call. Somebody calls the school, and what do most of them say? Oh, I was calling to see how much your lessons are. Well, why do they say that? They don't know anything else to ask, right? So we always had the rule of the first time you ignore and just, oh, is this for yourself or a child? Oh, it's for my son. Great. How old is he? Excellent. Has he ever any experience before or done anything like this? No. Well, how'd you find out about us? What got you to call today, right? And I just go straight into it, never even acknowledge hearing it. Then they come back and say, well, yeah, but how much is it? Oh, as I was explaining, the introductory program is free, or the introductory program is $49, whatever it is. The introductory program is free. There's no obligation. Gives Billy a chance to see how he likes it, and meet the instructors and so forth. Gives you a chance to evaluate the program, the value of the program, and really get a chance to see if it's a good fit or not. And then I just go into it, right? And then the third time they ask, I'm going to say, well, what we do is we have all the kids go through the introductory class. We do an evaluation to see if it's a good fit in general, and then I'll give them a range, right? And the range I'll give them will be, at the lowest case, it's what it would be monthly if they prepaid for a year. And at the highest level, it's what I'm just going to ask them for on the normal monthly tuition, right? So if I'm charging $297 a month, I might say, in general, it's going to be range from $240 to $297 a month, in that range, right? But again, it depends upon we're going to evaluate Joey, make sure it's a good fit, and it depends upon how we structure the program and so forth. Okay, but I'm not going to go into any detail. Same thing is true, at the point when mom is there and dad hasn't shown up, right? I don't want to say, oh, I'm not going to tell you that, right? That just doesn't look good. It looks like I'm avoiding the issue, and it looks like I have something to hide, right? But the same line that I used on the info call, which is what Master Smith was saying, right, is I'm going to say it. I'm going to say, well, again, it depends upon how, structure the program in one thing or another. And then she said, well, just give me an idea. Oh, well, it's going to be on average 240 to 297 in that range. And after we've done the evaluation on Joey, then we'll sit down and go through the specifics and so forth, right? I'm never going to give them a number higher than what my normal monthly tuition would be after they've done the initial down payment. And I'm not going to give them a number lower than if I aggregated and gave them a 15, 20% discount or whatever, and then divide that out by monthly. Because I don't want it to come back to haunt me. I've seen people say, well, it's going to be $150 to $300 a month. And then they sit down in the enrollment conference, they're asking for $297 a month. So they say, well, what happened to the $150 option? Oh, well, there isn't a $150 option, right? Now you just lied, you lied to me and I've lost all trust.
Hey, Master Oliver, what do you charge for prepaid then for the year if you charge like $248 per month? You're saying 15 to 20%?
Well, I'll give you a longer answer to that. Matt Smith, why don't you answer that first?
Well, when you do a paid in full, you either give, we in our school, we even have 3 different payment options, but I don't want to confuse it.
Well, but on the enrollment.
Yeah, on the enrollment, and I will.
Okay, let me answer. You're taking too long.
I don't know if you want. I know you don't like to do paid in fulls on enrollments, but I do.
Yeah.
But
well, that's why I was giving you a chance to go first.
yeah. So you want me to do mine, huh? Okay.
Well, on 12 months, I wouldn't make it more than maybe 10%. Right. But as Master Smith was saying, I don't particularly like paid in full enrollments. And what you'll hear all of us say is that I'm not going to present it as one of the tuition options when I'm going through the pricing. Right? If it's a paid in full, it'll always be an oh by the way after the fact. Does that make sense?
Which we can do, but we'd rather do it on a renewal, a
Yeah.
bigger program, a longer program than a short program.
Yeah. Well, and again, you know, I present the monthly, I present what it's going to be initially. They give me a credit card, we finalize it. If I wanted to accelerate my cash and I wanted to do some enrollments paid in full, I could come back, we're finalizing the agreement and say, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, what a lot of our parents prefer to do is save, you know, whatever the number is, you know, $300. And let's say they just gave me a credit card, you know, well, how would they do that? Why just put the, you know, the balance of the year on the credit card, on your credit card, rather than us setting it up monthly through us? So that's an oh, by the way. You know, Master Smith will talk a lot about, oh, by the way, on the renewal, which, you know, it's a couple days later. Oh, by the way, did I mention how you could, right? So what I'm not doing is giving them the cash option up front or the monthly and risking in part sticker shock and risking in part I want to go home and think about which one makes more sense.
Yeah, sell them on the lower number, because if you can't sell them on the lower number, you sure aren't going to sell them on the higher. I mean, a smaller monthly is much easier looking at $297 rather than $2,800 or something.
Yeah. Although there's always exceptions to that too. I've had renewals where they couldn't fit the, you know, $597 in the budget, but they could put it on 4 different credit cards.
Yeah.
Not a very smart financial move, but you know, but that happens. You know, and Krista, Melissa, I mean, in a demographic like yours, it's almost like you've got to keep everybody from paying in full, right? You know, so that you bill it. But my rule of thumb is, if I can do 3,000 or 4,000, yeah, well, 10% of what your target monthly billing is, right? So if your target monthly billing was 50,000, if I can do 5,000 in new monthly payments that I wrote on enrollments, and then if every renewal wants to pay in full, I'm happy. Right? Because that way I'm going to build the billing up to 50, 60, and I'm going to keep my cash flow accelerated.
And for renewal, how much do you, how much of max do you give them as far as percentage discounts for renewal, whether it's a 4-year or a 6-year?
Well, I mean, the longer it is, the higher percentage you can do, and it still makes sense, right?
I mean, most of our schools have done anywhere from 15 to 25%.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I always want to look at the numbers and find a number where personally I'm pretty much neutral on it, right? If I give too high a percentage on the paid in full, then I'm, you know, going negative. And if I don't give a high enough percentage, I'm not giving enough incentive for them to do it, right? And frankly, you know, it's a function of your retention rate to a great extent, and your cash needs to some extent, right? But you know, the longer it is, the more time value of money kicks in, right? And the longer it is, the more, you know, what other marketers might call breakage, the more that you end up with somebody who might have dropped out otherwise, who either doesn't drop out or they prepaid for lessons they don't use.
And
I prefer to.
The verbiage you use, if let's say you quoted them, it's 240 to 297, and then they say, and you're trying to close them, and then they say, and you say 297, they say, well, what happened to the 240? And you say, well, that's if you wanted to. A lot of our people want to go ahead and just pay the year in advance, put it on a credit card or etc. And that way you get that discount. So it would break out to about $240 a month if you paid it in full. Well, you got to make sure that number, whatever you're quoting, is going to match the percentage you're giving them for paid in full. And if that's 20% or 15 or 25, whatever it is, that low number's got to match that. So you can give them that option. And then, and I say to them sometimes, well, would you like to do that? And they go, well, no, I just think we'll just keep it with the monthly. And that's what they'll usually say. But occasionally they'll go, yeah, let's go ahead and just put that on a credit card and I'll get that savings. Now, when you're doing a renewal paid in full is a little bit different deal because it's a bigger number. So I would never tell them I'm going to give you a 15 or a 20% discount. I'd say the actual dollar amount. I said, well, if you pay that in full, that could save you. And that's when I do the, oh, by the way, when I go back to them a week or two later. And then but you give them a cash dollar savings. So 15 or 20, it doesn't sound big, but if you say that'll save you $2,800 or $5,000 or whatever the actual dollar amount when you do the big paid in full. But for the smaller paid in full, you're just doing the percentage because it's not that big a deal.
And this is after you do the down payment, right? So you do, whether it's a $300 or $400 enrollment fee or the $995 for whatever Black Belt Leadership Program. And then what you're doing is the monthly. That's what you're giving a 10, 15, or 20% discount.
Well, I do the whole thing. I put the down payment plus the monthly all added together, take the percentage of it.
Yeah, you're answering a different question though. I think is in the sales process, it's after the deal is done.
Yeah, we don't like.
Maybe I'm answering the wrong question, but is that what you're asking, Sal? In other words,
no, what I was asking is like for now, like you enroll with $300 down payment, right? That's the enrollment, and it's $248 per month. And if I wanted to say, hey, by the way, the $248 per month, you know, I could give you a 10% discount if you like, if you pay in full.
Well, you do
So
that after-
you got the 300 plus. Now you're only giving a discount of 10% on the monthly tuition of $248.
Well, you're getting, yeah. I mean, you can compute it however you want. I would only give them the percentage discount on the amounts that they're prepaying.
Let's make sure everything's clear though, Master Oliver. You're not doing the paid in full until after you've closed with the down payment and gotten the monthly and signed the agreement. And
Yeah,
then
you're coming back to them later. It's not at the same time.
Yeah, don't confuse the issue where you're presenting the money and then you present them, the initial in the first month, you ask them for the money, and then you give them all these other options.
Yeah, then they're going to say, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. And they never signed the contract. Get the contract signed at the low payment, then come back to them. And then I give them full credit for everything that they already paid off of whatever the total, everything added together, take your percentage, subtract what they paid, and that would be the balance due. It should be a savings of, and I would be selling that point. I'd say I could save you. Did I go over the different payment plans that could save you up to $500?
Let me suggest we pick up on the script next Thursday on
Got it.
on that, so we can.
Yeah, we'll do the oh, by the way, script, and I do have a full video. And Master Moody and I both did a whole 2 hour session at our one of our live meetings.
Yeah, but to share again my logic, personally for my schools, I never really cared about having enrollments paid in full. My logic is a lot of my staff, and of course most of the things were enrollments were being done through staff, is when they got to the renewal, is for a lot of the staff that became a barrier because the reaction was, I've already paid in full for a year, right? Why are you asking me again? Now there's other things they should have done to avoid that, but I prefer every enrollment to just be monthly, and then as many renewals paid in full as they're willing to pay in full. And from my standpoint, I don't give a shit about 2,500 paid in full, but I love 30,000 paid in full. And that would be about what the numbers were. I mean, we've done a number of deals, Matt Smith, every now and then we bring the checks in and show people at live meetings and so forth. We've done a bunch of them that are 32,000, 35,000.
Yeah. Jan, what was your big paid in full that you did in December or January? You
Is our
had,
big paid in full? I don't know if we had any really big ones, maybe 20, Rachel, 2019. She's not answering me. We had a bunch of smaller ones. I think we might have had one for 17, 19. I honestly don't remember.
yeah, see, and you see where Rachel's thinking is 17,000 or 19,000, that
small one.
small ones. And that's because it was Amanda Christensen at the Thornton in December had a 30, was it a 35,000 or 34,000
37.
paid in
I
full?
think 37.
So yeah, when we get into the renewals and you're in the bigger programs, you've got a lot of incentive, but there's a way you word that. You don't go to them and say you want to pay it in full. There's a way to go into that. We'll go through that conversation next meeting if you'd like.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. Okay. On that note, we'll call it a day. If there's anything open-ended, post in the Facebook group. Krista, Melissa, I think you can fix those ratios. You know, you had enough volume to have done 25, 30 enrollments this month.
And,
Yeah,
and
and
I
we
will
would-
commend Melissa and Krista also on knowing their numbers so they know where the problem is, because, you know, just correcting your first to second, which I thought we gave you enough information to do, that could have doubled your enrollments without changing anything on your conference. And with the extra things we gave you on the conference, I think that's even going to improve that percentage. So you've got the ball rolling now to help those percentages. And that's how we help you get better, is by you sharing those numbers with us so we can analyze what you're doing and how we can make those things better. The schools that don't keep their numbers, they just know how many enrollments they have and how many leads. Well, there's a lot of gap in between there if we don't know appointments and we don't know first intro and even second intro, because if we would have looked at your 28 intros and not known that you only had 12 people come back, and we'd have looked at 28 intros and 6 enrollments, we would say whoever's doing those enrollment conferences is messing up big time. But when you look at 12 and 6, 50%, that's not as big a deal. It is, we would like to see that a little better, but a lot bigger difference from 28 to 6.
Right.
So-
And on that note, everybody have a wonderful rest of your week. Any questions or thoughts, post them in the Facebook group, and remind us we'll do a little bit more paid and full stuff
Remember,
next week.
these are all recorded, so review them.
Yeah.
Right.
And Melissa,
everybody.
maybe when you get a chance, or Krista, give me a call so we can set up a time to do a progress check with Master Smith. Maybe at this point where you guys can make these adjustments, we'll set it up for 2 weeks out.
Sounds
Okay.
great. I really
Okay.
appreciate the help today.
Oh,
very much.
absolutely.
We're
Thank you
here.
very much.
We're here
Thank
every week, same day, same channel.
Okay,
Thank you.
good job, Krista. See ya.